Good morning, everyone. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we're in Treaty 1 territory and the traditional homeland of the Métis Nation. My name is Lynn Nesbitt, and I'll be chairing the panel today. Other members of the panel are Richard Whitbread, who's with me in the room, and Kathleen Garrity, who's joining us by Zoom. The secretary to the board for a moment, Belen Rojo, and our assessor is Jennifer Nichols. To the participants of the hearing, please note you are placed in the waiting room until your property is called upon. When it is your turn, you'll be admitted into the meeting. Kindly follow along on the City of Winnipeg's Board of Revision YouTube channel for the hearing process. Once the host admits you into the hearing, please close or mute your YouTube player. You will then be permitted to speak with respect to your property. Once your hearing has concluded, you can leave the meeting. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment role in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of Queen's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I'll confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony, followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all of the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. On the docket. Okay. The first property we're going to hear today on our docket is 487 North Town Road. So to begin, we will have the assessor and the applicant sworn in.
Madam Assessor, would you please state your full name?
Jennifer Nichols.
And you affirm the evidence you're about to present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Mr. Applicant, please state your full name.
Raymond Hewen.
And you affirm the evidence you're about to present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Nichols, you can proceed with your presentation. We're hearing 487 North Town Road.
Okay, thank you. So roll number is 0309-169-1600, 487 North Town Road. This property is in Bridgewater Lakes, a two-story property built in 2013, 2,299 square feet of living area with a finished basement, 2 full bathrooms, 3 half bathrooms with 2 showers, air conditioning, fireplaces, an attached garage, lot size just over 7,000 square feet. And it does have a land influence of bus route and medium traffic. And the current 2022 assessment value on this property is $583,000. So the comparables that I have today are all in the same area, all in Bridgewater Lakes. All are two-story properties, built very close to the subject. Comparable 1 was built in 2013. Comparable 2 was built in 2012. Comparable 3, 2012. Comparable 4, 2014. The living areas vary in size a little bit. Comparable 1 is pretty close in size, a little bit larger, 2382 square feet. Same with comparable 2, again, a little bit larger, 2493. Comparable 3 is a bit smaller, 1948. And then comparable 4 is 2390. They all have finished basements except for comparable number 4, which does not have a finished basement. So that's something to take into account when looking at that sale price. And the square footages of the lots are, for the most part, smaller, except for comparable 3, which has a slightly larger lot. All have a traffic influence similar to the subject. And the time-adjusted sale prices range from $577,500. The lowest is $541,700. That's comparable 3, which is the smallest property. So that makes sense, up to $642,000 for the largest property. So what I was focusing on for this property was more the time-adjusted sale price per square foot, just because there is some variation in the size of the comparables. So the time-adjusted sale price per square foot is ranging from $241 per square foot up to $278 per square foot. And the assessed value for the subject falls right in that range at $253.59 per square foot. So I do feel that the assessment is supported by the comparable sales for this property. And yeah, I think that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ewan, do you have any questions of the assessor?
No, I do not.
Thank you.
Actually, maybe I have one quick question to the assessor would be, in selecting these 5 properties, there's obviously, a lot of sales within the area. And I agree, like focusing on this area is appropriate. Would this be on the higher end of comparables? Would this be on the medium or on the lower end of comparables?
Do you mean in terms of the sale price?
Yeah, just in terms of like, are these, what makes these the most appropriate? And, could it be a case where we're just looking at the higher ones?
So these comparables I chose based on when they were constructed. So, very similar to yours. Of course, the area, and then, trying to find some that were similar in size. I wasn't looking for the highest comparables. I'm not sure what the average or median sale price is for this particular area for 2-story properties. So I'm not sure I can answer that part of the question. But that's how I was choosing the comparables, just based on whether, how closely I could match the characteristics to the subject property.
Okay, I have no other questions. Thanks.
Mr. Whitbread, do you have any questions?
No, I'm fine. Thank you.
Ms. Garrity, do you have any questions? Okay, and neither do I. So, Mr. Ewan, you can proceed.
Okay, thanks. So thanks all for your time. I acknowledge that at the beginning, there was a comment that, the focus of the board should be on the time-adjusted sales price and not the assessed value. Unfortunately, my presentation focused heavily on the assessed value. So maybe I'll start with, just a 10-second blurb of why I'd like to urge the board to consider the assessed value.
Okay, I do need to tell you that we cannot consider assessed value of properties. That's not a measure of the market value. Only because there's a couple reasons, I guess. Number one is we're not sure if some of these properties that you're using are also under appeal. And there may be errors with those assessed properties. So that's the logic behind that. If you can speak to sales or that sort of information in your area, that would be great.
Okay. The only reason why I would say that is because if the argument at the beginning is that the assessed value should represent what the home should have sold for, then
Right.
if someone tells me that we can't use the assessed value in our defense as evidence to support what the quote unquote market value would have been, then it throws this whole process off. That would be my 2 cents there. Because if you're telling me that my home assessed at 583 represents the amount it should have been able to be sold on April 1st, 2018, then it would make logical sense that other assessed values represent the amount that particular property would have been able to be sold.
Sure, I appreciate that, but we also don't know at this point if those properties are also under appeal like yours is.
Which would argue that if they're under appeal, the bias would be to decrease the assessed value as opposed to raise it. So
you can make your presentation and we'll listen to the evidence you bring us.
Okay, sounds good. So I'm going to have to change gears a little bit because it doesn't sound like the majority of my presentation will get across. I will focus a bit more on assessed value, but we'll go from there. So I had presented 6 properties, 3 of which were in the sales book and 3 of which were not sold in the 2016 to 2018 period. And again, I focused on the assessed value and showing that, when you compare the time adjusted value to the assessed value, there is quite a big difference. The assessor had presented 474 Northtown Road, and I also agree, I believe that one is the most comparable. It sold for the time adjusted sales price was 577,500. I believe the assessor had calculated that average square footage price per square footage at $242. And again, when compared to mine, the 583 has $1 per square footage of 253.6. So again, like the home that is closest to mine that was actually sold in that period has a lower property value per square footage. And then again, in my defense, like 474 was further reduced to 556, which has an average $1 per square footage of 233. So again, even further reducing it. I don't have this presented in front of the board, unfortunately, but I did take a look at homes sold in 2018 that were built in 2013 with a finished basement with square footages between 2,200 and 2,400, and there were 9 properties sold in that period. And again, now focusing on time adjusted sale price, like those properties have an average of about 249.7. So I'm doing this on the fly because I'm trying to adjust my presentation to cater to what you need to focus on. And again, still lower than the 253. I would argue that a lot of these other properties, they don't have the same types of property influences, like being on the bus route and that it's on, the medium traffic. I noticed there was a discrepancy in the evidence I presented versus what the assessor presented on 474. On 474 Northtown Road, what I found was that the property influence was just medium traffic. I do acknowledge that the assessor has additional property influences. My information is from the Winnipeg website, the property assessment, like where the public information. So unfortunately, I don't have that same level of detail that the assessor does. Again, I'm focusing on assessed value because that's really what I can do. And when I looked at the immediate area, just the properties found on my block between North Kenniston and Bridge Lake Drive on Northtown Road, there's 22 properties there. The other 21 properties, so excluding mine, the average assessed value is 523. So again, just homes in that area. And yes, that I agree, there's a lot of differences that, it's not the most comparable homes, but when we're talking strictly about area, and you would argue that the land developers don't want $1 million homes mixed in with really tiny homes. I thought that was also important to consider. And yeah, like I said, unfortunately, my presentation focused on the assessed value. I feel that based on the assessed value of other homes, which should represent the market value of these homes sold on April 1st, 2018, that our home, like my property, is slightly overvalued. And then I would argue that it should be reduced. And I have a recommendation in my deck to reduce it to 540. with an average square footage of 235, which is more in line with the other homes that we see in this area. So apologies, I had to try and change gears a bit given the earlier comments, but my comments still stand. I feel that the assessed value is important, but even without the assessed value, just looking at the sales that had happened, I still feel that our property is higher than what homes were actually sold had. So that concludes my remarks.
Thank you very much. And good job for changing it on the fly. Ms. Nichols, do you have any questions of the applicant?
Okay, I'm just looking at the properties that were the first three properties, the first three comparables that had sold. I don't see I see the assessed value at the bottom. Is there anywhere that shows what the sale prices of those properties that had sold were? I know I had the first one, 474 North Town Road, so we know that one, but was there the sale price for the other two?
I did not include, so there are two things I did not include on that slide. I did not include the actual sales price. So I only included in brackets the time adjusted price. And then I also did not include any kind of dollars per square footage. So I've just been trying to calculate that in the back right now.
Okay, so we don't know what the sale prices of those two properties
No,
were.
not.
Okay.
Not on that slide.
Okay, and then I guess my only other question would be, no, sorry, actually that's all the questions I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Garrity, do you have any questions of the applicant?
No, I don't have any questions. Sorry.
Thank you. Mr. Whitred, do you have any questions?
No questions, thanks.
Okay, and I don't have any questions either. So thank you very much, Mr. Ewan, and you'll be receiving our decision shortly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Have a good
you.
day. Bye.
You too.
Can we take a recess?
Yeah, we're just going to take a quick 5-minute break, and then we'll move on to 232 Willow Creek Place. But 5-minute break first. Thank you. I'd like to reopen the hearing. And I appreciate everybody's patience while we had that little delay. Next on our agenda is 232 Willow Creek Place. I understand our applicant is not present, although he has submitted a written submission. So we will have the assessor sworn in, or no, the assessor has been sworn in. Ms. Assessor, could you please read the particulars and make your presentation, please?
Yes, thank you. So the roll number for this property is 0309300189, 232 Willow Creek Road. This property is in Bridgewater Trails. It is a two-story home built in 2020, 2,377 square feet. It has a walkout basement, which is finished, 2 full bathrooms, 2 half bathrooms, 3 showers, air conditioning, an attached multiple car garage. The lot size is 5,333 square feet, and it does have a retention pond influence. The current 2022 assessment value for this property is $806,000, or just over $339 per square foot. So the comparables that I have today are in Bridgewater Trails or Bridgewater Lakes, which is an adjacent area. All properties are 2-story homes, recently constructed. So the comparable 1 was built in 2018. Comparables 2 and 3 were built in 2012. So those are older than the subject by 8 years, I guess. And then comparable 4 was built in 2015. All of the comparables are so the comparable 1 is the smallest, 2,120 square feet. That's slightly smaller than the subject. Comparables 2 and 3 are slightly larger, just over 2,400 square feet each. And then comparable 4 is the largest comparable at 2,840 square feet. All of the comparables have walkout basements. Comparable 1 does not have a finished basement, so that's something to take into account when looking at the sale price of that property, but the rest do have finished basements. All have air conditioning and attached garages. Lot sizes range from 6,377 square feet for comparables 2 and 3, up to 7,512 square feet for comparable 4. They all have the retention pond influence, land influence. And the time adjusted sale prices range from $697,300 for comparable 1, which again is smaller than the subject and also does not have a finished basement, up to just over $1 million, $1,088,300. So I do think that with the assessment value at $806,000, that this property is, if anything, assessed lower than what the comparables are showing. So I do think that the assessed value is okay where it is, given that it's kind of on the lower end of the range. It is smaller than comparables 2, 3, and 4. So that's something to kind of take into account as well as to why those sale prices may be slightly higher. But yeah, I do think $806,000 is a reasonable value for this property. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Whitred, do you have any questions of the assessor?
I don't.
Ms. Garrity, do you have any questions of the assessor? No questions? Can't hear her.
No questions. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. One thing struck me as I was looking at this, and that is the range of time adjusted sale prices in the comparables you got. As you mentioned, the smaller one is $697. That's $100,000 less than our subject. But the other ones are over 100, almost 200 in one case, more than our subject. What is what is driving these? I mean, I do see that the lot size is quite a bit bigger in comp number 4, which is the highest value, but the homes themselves seem fairly similar, except for comp 4, which is quite a bit bigger. Can you speak to that? Are there other, did you look at other comps? Is it, why these ones? They just seem to me to be so different.
Well, I do think that these are fairly comparable to the subject. The subject was, I believe, built by KDR, which is a fairly good builder. And so I believe that Comp 2 and Comp 3, although they were built not by KDR, I believe both of them were built by Qualico. Those were both show homes. So I think that that's possibly having an impact on that higher value as well. But as I said, they are larger as well. And then comparable 4 was also built by KDR. It is larger though, than the subject, about 500 square feet larger. So that 1,088,000 I think is kind of accounted for in that extra square footage. But I think overall, because the subject is also a well-built, house from a good builder, I do think that these comparables are still comparable to the subject.
Okay, so in this case, our applicant is not present, but a written submission was submitted. Do you have any comments to make of that submission? Have you had a chance to review, and do you have any comments?
I did review. I mean, really my only kind of comment is that given that the applicant isn't here, I'm not really given the opportunity to ask him any questions regarding his submission. So, although I believe he submitted that the cost of constructing his home was $749,700, but there's no indication of what all was included in that price, if that was the total price, if there was anything else that he had to pay for over and above that. So, I guess that would just be my main comment, that with not getting the opportunity to ask him any questions about it, I'm not sure that we really have the complete picture. So I think that should be taken into account as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So we will also consider that evidence when we're making our decision. Okay, next on our agenda is 99 Autumn View Drive. Before we begin, Mr. Alfar, can you hear me? Is he muted?
Yes, I can.
Okay, you've made a written submission. I understand you may want to speak to that verbally instead.
That's correct, yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we will have you sworn in and then we will begin.
Mr. Applicant, please state your full name.
Nabil Alfar.
And you affirm the evidence you're about to present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Ms. Nichols, you can begin with 99 Autumn View Drive, please.
Okay, thank you. Roll number is 030914333700. So 99 Autumn View Drive. This property is located in South Point. It is a one-story built in 2010. Living area is 1,960 square feet. It does have a walkout basement, which is finished, 3 full bathrooms with 1 shower, air conditioning, and attached multiple car garage. Land area of 9,548 square feet. And it does have a park and walkway land influence. The current 2022 assessment value for this property is $841,000. So the comparables that I have today are all in South Point. The first 2 are actually on Autumn View Drive. They're all one-story properties built in and around the same time as the subject Comparables 1 and 2 were built in 2009, comparable 3 in 2011, and comparable 4 in 2015. Living areas are ranging from slightly smaller, so comparable 3 and 4, slightly smaller, 1,694 square feet and 1,873 square feet. And comparables 1 and 2 are larger, 2,130 and 2,352 square feet respectively. All have walkout basements, which are finished. All have attached garage, and all have the same park influence that the subject has. Comparable 3 and 4 do have smaller lot sizes than the subject. Comparable 1 and 2 are similar in lot size. So the time adjusted sale prices for these properties, for these sales, are ranging from comparable 4, which is 621,100. So that one is slightly smaller than the subject with a smaller lot, up to 896,000 for comparable 2. So that property is the largest of the comparables. So when I was looking at the comparables, it did seem to me that the subject was on the high end. So I am recommending a reduction in the assessment to 700,000 or $357 per square foot, just to better reflect the comparables in the market.
Okay. Mr. Applicant, the assessor has made a recommendation to reduce your assessment to $700,000, down from $841,000. Do you agree with that recommendation?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you so much. Then I don't think we need to proceed any further with your presentation, and we will consider that recommendation made by the assessor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next on our agenda is 39 Sunstone Bay. And is our applicant online? Okay. Can we have the applicant sworn in, please? Okay. Okay. How do we know?
You will look up.
Okay.
I emailed both of them right now, so we should see them come back. Okay.
There it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
I emailed both of them right now, so
Hello there, can you hear me?
Yes, hello. Who's hello?
Hi.
Here's there.
Hi, we can see the top of your head. Okay, there you are.
That's
Hello.
my best part.
Hi there. We'll just get you sworn in before we begin, okay?
Okay.
please state your full name.
My name is.
Hello there, can you hear me?
Yes, hello. Who's hello?
Hi. Hi, we can see the top of your head. There you are.
That's my best part.
Can you please close your YouTube?
Okay.
Okay.
State your full name.
Mr. Story, can you close your YouTube player, please?
Just one moment. We need my technician here. Okay. Close my YouTube.
Okay, please state your full name.
My name is Sid Story, S-T-O-R-E-Y.
And you affirm the evidence you're about to present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, Mr. Story. Ms. Assessor, you can proceed with 39 Sunstone Bay.
Madam Chair, that's not my property. I have 373 2260.
You are on West Taylor.
What happened to Sunstone Bay?
They didn't appear.
Okay, West Taylor it is. 2261 West Taylor Boulevard.
Okay, so roll number is 10-00407-9100, 2261 West Taylor Boulevard. This property is in South Tuxedo, two-story, built in 1999, 3,623 square feet with a full and finished basement, 2 full baths, 2 half with 2 showers, air conditioning, an attached garage, sunroom, and a lot size of 13,950 square feet. This property also has a few land influences: bus route, external corner, medium traffic, and a regional park influence. And the current assessed value, current 2022 assessed value is $1,051,000. So the comparables that I have today are all in South Tuxedo, all 2 stories, built around the same time as the subject, ranging in size from 3,494 square feet for comparable 3, which is the smallest, up to 4,318 square feet, comparable 1, which is the largest. All have finished basements, attached garages, all have larger lots. Comparable 1 has the largest lot, 17,251 square feet. And comparable 1 and 2 both have a traffic influence as well as a park influence. Comparables 3 and 4 don't have those land influences. So the sale prices, the time adjusted sale prices for the comparables are ranging from $944,400 for comparable 3 up to $1,312,800 for comparable 1. So looking at these sale prices and the time adjusted sale prices per square foot, I do think that the 2022 assessed value of $1,051,000 is reasonable. And I would also like to point out that Mr. Story did agree to this value for the 2020 assessment, which uses the same reference date. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Story, do you have any questions of the assessor?
Yes, I do, but first a procedural issue, if we may. I wasn't aware, and I had forgotten that we had done a settlement on this property last year, and I didn't know until I arrived this morning and got the assessor's package. So I apologize to the board, but I'll just ask for confirmation at this time. There was a slight reduction in the previous cycle that's been carried forward, and we honor the 15 ones signed by with the city.
Okay, so you're requesting that the assessed value of $1,051,000 be confirmed?
Please, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Story. Okay, then we will move on to 373 Glenbush Street.
Is it okay for me to start?
Pardon me?
Is it okay for me to start?
Yes, please.
Roll number 010096000805. 373 Glenbush Street is in Bettsworth neighborhood. 2-story property built in 2019, 2,645 square feet with a full basement, which is finished, 4 full bathrooms and 1 shower, air conditioning, and attached garage, and lot area of 5,723 square feet. The current assessed value for this property is $790,000. So the comparables that I have today, comparable 1 and 2, are in Bettsworth. They're both 2 stories, fairly recently constructed compared to the subject, built in comparable 1 is built in 2017, comparable 2 built in 2016. Both are smaller than the subject, so 2191 square feet for comparable 1, 2212 for comparable 2. Both of those properties have full basements, but they are not finished, and both have attached garages. So the sale prices, the time adjusted sale prices for those properties are $616,200 and $644,000. So I do think that those properties do have a lower sale price, but they are smaller than the subject and they don't have finished basements. Comparable 3 is in Elmhurst, so it's just an adjacent neighborhood, 2-story, built in 2014, living area 2,509 square feet, full basement, but again, the basement is not finished, and multiple attached garage. Lot size for this property is larger, 10,658 square feet, and this property does have a medium traffic influence. This property sold for $681,400. The final comp 4, 35 Brittany, is a 2-story built in 2005, so it is older than the subject property, 2,293 square feet, so it's also smaller, but it does have a full basement, which is finished. It has a multiple attached garage. Lot size is similar to the subject, 5,622 square feet, and this property sold for $641,700. So because there is kind of a range in the sizes, for the comparables, I would like to sort of turn to the time adjusted sale price per square foot, which ranges from $271 a square foot up to $291 a square foot. And I had spoken with Mr. Story a few weeks ago regarding this property, and so I do think that $275 per square foot would be a reasonable value. So that is, I guess, the recommendation that I would like to make for this property.
Okay, you're recommending, I'm sorry, $275 a square foot?
Yes.
And
So
can
sorry.
you tell us what the value then will be?
Yeah, so just rounding down, it would be $727,000.
Sorry, you're
$727,000.
here. Mr. Story, how do you feel about that?
Well, I appreciate the offer. Unfortunately, it's just a little bit higher than we were expecting or wanted. So I would like to proceed if possible.
Okay, then. All right. Then do you have any questions for the assessor?
Yes, just very quickly. Ms. Nickel, you're familiar with Scotswood? Hello?
Scotswood?
Yes, the development, the infill development between Randville and the West Perimeter Highway. It's called Scots. That's where two of the subject and 2 of your comps are located.
Okay, yeah, no, I wouldn't say I'm really familiar with the.
Okay, so you are, obviously you haven't inspected either of these properties.
No, we're not doing inspections right now.
Okay, have you done an inspection on the subject?
No.
No, okay. And comp 3 and 4, you would agree, are not in Scotswood, which is the new infill housing development at the West Perimeter. You'll agree that they're not part of that development?
No, they're in a different area.
Okay. And you've suggested some time adjustments here. Do you have any dual sales or anything to support these time adjustments?
The time adjustments that are provided at the bottom?
Yeah.
No, those are derived from the model.
Okay. So they're model driven, they're not actual. Right.
Well, I'm not sure I understand exactly. Yeah, like they come from the model. Yeah.
All right. And you're aware that this piece of property, the land, was acquired in March of 2018?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, or thereabouts. Yeah.
Yeah. And well, that's the when it was. And are you aware that 413 Scotswood and 409 Scotswood were both the display homes for the 217 parade of homes?
No, I wasn't aware.
And are you, based on your experience, when people buy a display home, do they often get additional amenities that were, additional features that were installed by the builder, and rather than tear them out, they leave them and sell them with the display home? You aware of that?
That there are additional features? Well, I don't know
Yeah,
for these. I don't know specifically.
You may have higher degree of finish in the show home than in.
Yeah, I would say that. I would say that would be typical.
Yeah, okay, fine. And you talked about land size. I'll get into it at some length, but the subject property is on 5,700 square feet. In today's marketplace for new developments, and I'm thinking of South Point and Bridgewater and Sage Creek, those are relatively small lots, or very small lots. Would you agree with that?
That 5,700 would be a small lot.
Yes.
I have to say I don't know what the average lot size is in that area.
Okay,
That would,
let's look next door. The two display homes, 413 and 409, have 7,279 square feet. So they have a lot size that's, I got it here, that's 27% higher than the subject. Does the assessment make any adjustment for that? The fact that it's a smaller lot, or use as model driven?
that would be taken into account in the assessed value. Yeah.
Okay. And I didn't hear what you said. You talked about, did you indicate that there's a traffic adjustment on
For
this?
comparable on the subject?
On the subject, yeah.
No, we don't have a traffic
Okay.
influence for the subject.
Okay. And just help me out here. 848 Haney is the old Charleswood Golf and Country Club. It's at the end of the Morey Street Bridge. It's quite far removed from Scotswood, is it not?
So I'm just taking a look at the map that goes along with the comparables. So yeah, so I mean, for sure, comparables 1 and 2 are much closer because they're in the same.
And this Scotswood is a brand new development. It's called an infill development because a lot of the houses were around it that were boarding it were older houses. But this is not, this one, by any stretch of the imagination, Haney wouldn't be considered a reasonable comp with Scotswood.
In terms of the area?
Well, here's
Well,
how
it is.
here's how the page, pardon me, Remax describes the area as this is Southwood as true infill housing, car dependent, minimal transit. There's limited bus service out there, if any. The train interrupted. The property has the 2 main lines, C and CP, that run outside of it. This can hamper access and egress.
Mr. Story, is this part of your evidence?
No, I'm just asking if the assessor is aware that Scotswood is quite different than Haney or Brittany. Okay, I won't carry on. I'll just ask this. Haney has all kinds of services, correct? There's a Safeway, there's a McDonald's, there's a Tim Hortons, there's access to Morey Street Bridge, which gets you to hospitals. Does the subject property have any of those amenities?
I'm not familiar enough with either one of these areas to tell you exactly what is located in or nearby.
Well, you would have to know that Haney is as you come off the Morey Street Bridge. It's a huge dog park. You're not familiar with that?
I'm not familiar enough with these areas to really speak to what kinds of amenities are in or nearby.
But you somehow in your wisdom chose, or somebody chose, Haney as a comparable to a new infill housing development at the Perimeter Highway.
Mm-hmm.
Did you choose the comps?
The comparables aren't perfect, but I do think that, although the area is, not identical, that they are all properties that are built around the same time. Haney is close in size to the subject.
Close in size? In
Close
square
in size.
footage?
In square footage. Yeah,
Yeah, but not
the
lot
subject.
size, it's 10,000 square feet of land.
yeah, not the lot size, but
Yes,
the size of the home is similar. So I do think, although the area is different, there are still some characteristics that are similar enough to make it a reasonable comparison.
And you would have that same evidence for Brittany, I take it? Because Brittany is even further removed than Haney
Mhm.
from the subject.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Sorry. And when I look at your, when I look at your sales, the average sales, your median sale is $627,000 based on your 4 comps. And the time adjusted median, that's unadjusted. And the time adjustment is, let's scroll down here somewhere. We'll see it. Okay. So the time adjustment on the, or without the time adjustment, the median is 627. That's a long way from 790,000, is it not?
Sorry, the median,
The
like median per square foot?
Without time adjustment
Oh, without.
is $627,000. The average is 636,000, based on your 4 comps.
Yeah, so for the comps, though, I do think it's probably more beneficial to look at the sale price or the time adjusted sale price per square foot, just because there is a range in the square footages or the sizes.
You use that to get to your sale price. You use that square footage
to get to my.
What would give rise, in your opinion, to the subject property having a $790,000 assessment when the average of your comps is 627,000?
I really can't say exactly what the model used to come to the assessed value that came from the model. I'm not sure, what exactly the model was looking at.
You mentioned in an earlier hearing different builders who had built in whatever, I didn't even get the address, but do you know who built this home?
No, I don't.
Okay, you must have reviewed the building permits, did you not?
I possibly did when I was first looking at the property, but I don't recall who built it.
Okay, it was built by the owner.
Okay.
And it was built over 18 months. But in your field sheets, you don't have any indication of the building permits that were taken?
I don't have that on me, no. Don't have that with me.
Okay, Madam Chair, I think I'm okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Story. Mr. Whitbread, do you have any questions?
I have none, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Garrity, do you have any questions?
Yes, I do. The 2 questions or 3 questions. One is the subject property has the finished basement. None of the others, Comp 4 does as well. And I'm just wondering that, does that have a big effect on the pricing? And then the other part is you drop the price, the assessed value or the price to 727, and that's still higher than any of the comps. Can you just speak to that?
Yeah, for sure. So, so I am recommending a reduction to 727, just to bring the value in line with the time adjusted price per square foot. So that brings it to 275 a square foot, which is, towards the lower end of what the comparables are showing. I think that takes into account that the subject is larger than any of the comparables, also newer than any of the comparables, and does have a finished basement, whereas comps 1, 2, and 3 do not. So although 727 is higher than the like the total sale price of any of the comparables per square foot, it's in line. And like I said, I think it takes those things into account.
Thank you.
Okay, so just to clarify, the finished basement then does have an impact on the value of this property relative to the comps?
Yes, yeah, that would increase the value for sure.
Can you speak to that a little bit more? Like, what does it generally do?
Like in terms of a dollar value?
Well, I know it depends on the finish and all that sort of thing, but can you expect that the same house with the same finishing with a finished basement would typically sell for more than a non-finished basement, assuming it's in the same neighborhood, assuming it's relatively the same age, all those things?
Yeah. All else being equal, having a finished basement would.
And I also note that this house is the newest of all the comps.
Yeah.
By a couple of years on the Scotswood, but quite a bit newer than the one on Brittany Drive and 5 years newer than Haney, right? So
yeah, so it is newer. It also is quite a bit larger than the two properties that are in the same area, comparable 1 and 2. It's quite a bit larger than those properties, and it does have the finished basement where those properties don't.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Story, you can proceed with your presentation.
Thank you very much. I'll just take you to our brief. And if you look at the front page of our brief, there's a picture of the subject property. It's located at 373 Glenbush Street. You can see it's a 2-story, 2,645 square feet. The city records it as having an effective year built of 2019. The land was acquired in March of, or closed on it on March of 2018. And the owners of the property, the owner and his father, are contractors by nature, or the father is, and the father built the house. They built the house. There are building permits available. I would hope that in the future, the assessor, if the assessor was aware that this house was built on or near the reference date, and one would assume they'd search the building permits. They did indicate the land value of 180, and the land value of 180 was non-arm's length. The vendor carried back the financing until the owner could get enough people to build houses with COVID. And there's so much COVID going around. So that's the subject property on page 1. That's what it looks like. It's very attractive. It's in Winnipeg's newest infill, and it's a true infill because it has streets, old established streets with older houses on 3 sides and a retention pond on the 4th. You have to go and see it to really appreciate it, but the area has no amenities. There are no drugstores, there are no 7-Elevens, there's no Tim Hortons. It is described in the marketing brochure by RE/MAX professionals as being the only true infill housing development in Winnipeg, because it's new houses in with the perimeter surrounded by older streets. They tell you it's car dependent, meaning you have to have a car to drive there around there because there's no limited bus service. They call it minimal transit, but I don't think transit even gets out that far yet. It has train interruption. We happen to be on the Wilkes line, which is about 35 trains a day going both ways, each combined. Minimal bike infrastructure. So it's a wonderful area, but it's still a work in process. It has little or no vehicle service. You can't get gas. You can't get your tire fixed. There's no banks. There's no McDonald's. There's no Tim Hortons. There's no pet care, coffee shops, food stores, nothing. It's a work in process, and that all reflects what people pay for properties. If you go to our page 2, you'll see the city's description of the property. 2-story, 790,000, built by the owner, which meant that the only way the assessor can really assess it is looking at building permits, but the assessor chose not to. It's 26, it's 219 year built and 5,723 square feet. When you consider that it's nothing but land out by the west perimeter, it seems odd that the lots are so small, but they are. They're essentially 50-foot frontage. If you go to our page 3, this just gives you an idea. What we do is we start by looking at the region, and then we look at everything that we think is comparable to the subject. So you'll see we start with 8 comps. These are all the comps that we analyze. We analyze them with a fair degree of scrutiny. And what we do from there is we take the best 3 or 5, and in this case we use 3 because they're all in Scotswood. Haddington, you'll see the square footage anywhere from 24 to 29 square feet. They're all 2 stories. The assessments you'll see are all in the 500 to 600 range, and the 600 there's one 657, but for the most part they're all only 400,000 or 500,000 square footage assessment, and then square footage sold, and the median of sales, including all of the comps we analyzed, were $211 a square foot, and the average was $216. But we realized that wasn't reflective of the market value of the subject because it's brand new. So we looked across the street, not to Haney, not to Britannia. We looked across the street from the subject, and we saw the 3 properties that were built as display homes for the 217. If you look at the sale year on the right side, and I had the privilege of appealing one of those properties last cycle. They're almost identical to the subject. And if we take out the median and average and ignore it from the top column because we didn't use all of those, they weren't all appropriate, we took the average up to 614, 497, and the median to 609. We're suggesting that the 614 is a reasonable amount for this property. If you go to the next page, you'll see our same 8 comps. And this is important to know because land is expensive. Building lots are expensive by the time you service them, et cetera, et cetera. So when we look at the 8 appropriates that we thought were worthy of a review, you'll see that Paddington is 18% more land than the subject. Subject is 5723. Paddington, Hunters Point, they're all large. You get down to the 3 Scotswood. These are the 3 display homes. 72, 86, and 7200. The subject is 5723. So you can see that even using our best comps, their land is bigger by 27, 51, and 27%. If you flip the page to 413 Scotswood, and if you're really agile, you can go from the front page of our brief that shows a picture of the subject to our page 5, which shows one of the 3 comps that we used, we think is reasonable. And the assessor used them as well. The only difference is she did time adjustments and things of that nature. If you go to page 2, or page 6, 6. Again, if you're agile, have a look at the picture on the front and then have a look at 409 Scottsdale. Again, 409 Scottsdale is a display home, was a display home. On the finished basements, we won't get into it today, but it all depends on what you want them for. Builders generally just insulate, get them ready for drywall, because what I want in my new house and what my neighbor wants in his new house can be drastically different. And it's not uncommon when finished basements are put in, that they're often removed or renovated. So there is no evidence in my opinion, that supports whether you add value or don't add value. It's just like pools. Do you add value by putting in a pool? Not if you want to take it out, not if you got kids, et cetera, et cetera. So we're not sure of that, but those are display homes. And because they're display homes, they have to have finished basements. 373, again, nice house. So there's your three comps. They're in Scotswood. They've got essentially very close to the same building square footage, very close to the same land size, same age. Why are we objecting to the time adjustment? Because we don't believe that this type of property as we went into COVID, that there were time adjustments that were increasing the prices. This builder couldn't get tradesmen to build. So flies in the face. I don't believe there might be a place for time adjustments, but it wasn't in this cycle for sure. So that's my position. I would like the board to consider looking at page 3, an average of 614,497. When you look at the 3 sales, they average 614,497. There they are, 598, 635, and 609. It's very difficult to be in close proximity to 3 houses that look like yours or built like yours, roughly the same square footage. The subjects, the best comps, 330, 373 Scotswood, 409 and 413 are landscape. The subject isn't. I asked the owner what it would cost to landscape this property, and he said depending if he wanted to go really cheaply, it would be a little $4,000 to $5,000. If you wanted to do it right, appropriate for a new house and a new development, you might spend $20,000. So there's no landscaping on the subject. So I'm asking the board to consider average of 614,497. The assessor would have used sales. One presumes the only sale the assessor shows in her brief is the sale of land only of 180. That's on the assessor's page 1. All the assessor has to do is go and pull building permits, and that would tell her what it costs to build the house, and that would give an indication of the assessed value. With that, I will take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Story. Ms. Assessor, do you have any questions for the applicant? Sorry, we're just waiting for you to come on.
You're waiting for the assessor, right? For the assessor.
There we go.
Yeah, sorry. So Mr. Story, just to start, you had mentioned, I think, that the owner is a building contractor. Is that right?
No, he's the owner's son. The owner owns the Hilton. He's a hotelier. He owns the Hilton Garden Center at the IKEA Four Seasons, and that's why they're located where they are. They want to have close proximity and access to the hotel.
Okay, so it was his son that was the contractor, or I thought you.
So the father's a contractor, very well known in Winnipeg, and his son, the house is his son's.
Oh,
he lives at 2261 West Taylor. The father, the son lives here, and in a very interesting way with Wilkes and Shaftesbury and the perimeter. You're not too far away on Wilkes, albeit Wilkes. And you have rail crossings, but that's why they live there. So he built the house in the subject property he built to be accessible to the hotel.
Right. Okay. So just to clarify, so the father is the contractor, and he helped his son to.
Father and son, they built their own house.
They built it together.
Took about 18 months because they couldn't get tradesmen at the
Right.
time. Then they started right in, they closed on the land in March and started building immediately.
Okay, so you had mentioned the cost of construction, which was listed on the permit. Would you agree that if you are building your own house, your cost of construction would be lower than if you were paying a company to build a house for you?
Only if you're a contractor. I couldn't build a house. I can't hammer a nail. So
Yeah.
what, could I make money building a house? I don't think so.
But the cost of construction would be lower if you're doing it yourself because
Not
you're not paying for the
necessarily.
labor and.
Well, we don't know. We presume it would be built. You have access to the building permits, and they're not.
But it would be safe to assume that if you're doing the work yourself and you're not paying for labor, then your cost of construction would be lower.
That's
than
not.
if you were
That's
paying for labor.
That's not mass appraisal. Mass appraisal is you look at your comps and you hit a median, and that becomes that's mass appraisal, not who built
Right.
that.
Mm-hmm.
It's post-reference year. You built it post-reference year. In fact,
Mm-hmm.
that's why you don't do that.
So just looking at the comps that you provided on page 3 of your evidence,
Yeah.
I'm just going to, I guess, just focus on what you've labeled as the best comps.
Best comps, they're the only ones that are relevant to Scotswood.
Right. Okay. So I guess first of all, comp number 1, 373 Scotswood Drive.
Yeah.
Did that property sell on MLS?
It sold through the Parade of Homes, so I presume it would have. I don't know for a fact, but I presume so. You've got, the sale information comes from City of Winnipeg information, comes from your cataloging.
Right. Mhm.
Yeah. So they would hopefully, when it was entered in the sales book, City of Winnipeg did their due diligence to make sure that it was a bona fide sale, if that's what you're asking. I'm not sure what you're asking. Probably, I would think.
Because I didn't see that one on MLS. So I'm just wondering if that one was, if there was.
Well, what happens, as you know, when a development starts, the developer, and my clients are not the developers, they bought into land, but the developers are given different deals. They might be interest-free on the land. The land may be given to them with 2 years to develop, any number of things. So it might have been because of that, but I would assume that if you're doing, if you're part of Parade of Homes, which these were, and they sold, that it probably sold conventionally, which would probably be MLS.
Mm-hmm. Which is interesting that I didn't see that one on MLS. But okay. And then
Didn't see the building permits either. That's more interesting. But having said that, sorry.
But the second 2 comps, does your estimate of what the value should be based on the lower sale prices of those 2 comps, does that take into account that the subject is 433 square feet larger than 409 Scotswood and 454 square feet larger than 413 Scotswood?
So because you're using a price per square foot, that's what you're using.
But
So
when you're looking at $614,
yeah, what you're doing, you're looking at the comps, and then you forget the square footage for a minute. Just look at the sale prices: 598, 635, 609.
So you're suggesting 614. So a property that is over 400 square feet larger should be worth less than 409 Scotswood, which sold for 635.
I'm sorry, didn't get your question. Say it again.
Well, you're suggesting that the property should be worth $614,487,
The average, correct.
right?
Which interestingly, I can't find in your information how you get from all the comparables being, all of your comparables are less than the assessment that you want. You're making that adjustment on the 727. But yes, that's what I would do. We would average it using the best comps we can find, and these are the best comps you'll ever find. They're almost identical properties, exactly the same land size, 7,200 or something. Sorry, I don't know if that answered it, but my suggestion is it should be 614,497 to be equitable with the property owners at 373, 09, and 13. And that all the houses are built at the same time, with the exception of subject was made.
Right. So basically no adjustment for this, for the larger size of the subject then, or for the finished basement?
No, I'm doing on an average, just on average.
Yeah. Okay. All right, and then just my last question regarding just going to go back to the first comparable, 373 Scotswood. Did that property have a finished basement?
I would presume so. Let's see what the city thinks. 373?
Yeah.
Yes, it's got a finished basement. That's on page 2 of my brief. Are you asking 373? You're talking about the subject?
No, not the subject. 373 Scotswood.
Scotswood.
The first comparable.
I'm going to say yes, and I can't put my finger on it. If you want to take a minute's break, I've got it here. I would say yes, I'm pretty sure. Okay, hang on. I just found Glenbush, Haddington, and just for Scotswood. Here it comes. Yeah, okay. 373 Scotswood, according to the City of Winnipeg assessment information, has it has a basement, but not a finished basement. It says yes to basement, but no to finish.
Okay. Okay, I think that's all the questions that I had. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Garrity, do you have any questions of the applicant? Ms. Garrity, do you have any questions of the applicant? No, she just muted.
You're muted right now.
No, I don't. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Mr. Whitred, do you have any questions?
I don't for the applicant, but I have a redirect for the assessor.
Sure, yep.
Now,
Go
good.
ahead, yep.
Jennifer,
Yes.
did you visit the home to assess the quality of custom-built workmanship in that home?
No, we're not doing inspections right now, so no.
None at all?
No.
So would the model make an adjustment based on the assumption that it's a custom-built home and quality of workmanship, quality of product may be higher? Can the model do that?
It would depend on, like whoever, I guess, put all of the characteristics for the home into our system would have made that determination, I guess, of the quality of the home. So the quality does get taken into account.
So input would determine the model's ability to assess the value then. Okay. And of course, then you didn't visit any of the other homes, so we can't do comparable visit. Right. Thank you. That's all.
Mr. Story, can you speak to the quality of the finishing in the subject property?
Well, I believe that the combination of land purchase price and building permits were just under $600,000. So it would be comparable to the display homes. The display homes, which are the comps, typically have a little better finishes. So, no, I can't tell you what the city does. The city puts it into their system. Again, it's not hard to figure out if you know the building permits. You can find out what land sales were, and you can determine what the assessment might most appropriately be. But no, we don't. We do this based on you build the house to be compatible with the area and with your neighbors, I would presume. And these houses, if anything, a lot of them look very, very similar in the new development.
Okay, I have another question about the lot size
Mhm.
of 373 Scotswood.
Yeah.
Do you have that information?
Yeah. If you go to page 4 of our brief,
Oh, yeah, okay.
and you want 373 Scotswood, 8672, considerably larger. That's a coincidence. 373 is the subject. That's Glenbush plus it's a comp. It's Scotswood. They're two different properties, of course, but they both are 373. And that information comes from the city of Winnipeg. Again.
Okay, and can you point out to us, the assessor's got a map in her presentation where 373 Scotswood would be on this map?
I'll try, but it's not my evidence, so it might be more appropriate. Ask Ms. Nickel to tell us where it is, but.
Well, we see where 409 is and we see where 413 is, but obviously 373 isn't on there.
Oh, they're not on there, okay. 413, 409. There's a second. I'm not sure. I can't tell you. Maybe we can ask Jennifer. I don't know. These aren't my maps.
So I just am looking at Google Maps in comparison to the map that I provided. So it looks like 373 Scotswood is closer to Rannoch Avenue. So it's, I guess, just,
But
it's just north.
It's north of Rannoch or south?
No, it's south of Rannoch, but it's north of the comparables 1 and 2 on the map.
Yeah, I just didn't know how far.
Yeah, it looks like it might be one of the last lots facing that way. Yeah, across from a park.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I have no further questions on that one. Thank you, Mr. Story.
Thank you, Madam Chair, board members. Have a good day, everybody. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Bye now.
Okay, so we will loop back now to item number 7, 39 Sunstone Bay. Whenever you're ready.
There is no one present for that item.
Yeah.
Would you like?
I think we should still hear what the assessor has to say.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So roll number is 030929799065. 39 Sunstone Bay is in South Point. It's a 1-story home built in 2014, 1,359 square feet with a full and finished basement, 2 full bathrooms, 1 half with a shower, air conditioning, and a multiple car garage. The lot size is 5,725 square feet, and it does have a land influence of being on the internal corner of the street. The 2022 assessment value is currently $447,000, or just shy of $329 per square foot. The comparables are all in South Point. They're all 1-story properties. All are built within 5 years of the subject property. Comparable 1 is 1 year newer. Comparable 2 was built in 2014, 2011 for comp 3, and then comparable 4 was built in 2009. So that's the oldest comparable. This comparables 1 and 2 are slightly larger than the subject at 1,400 square feet. Comparable 3 is 1,316, so slightly smaller, and comparable 4 is the smallest at 1,207 square feet. All the comparables except for comparable number 1 have finished basements. So again, something to consider when looking at the sale prices. Comparable 1 does not have a finished basement, but the subject does. All have multiple attached garages. Comparables 1 and 2 do have negative land influences, medium traffic for comparable 1 and commercial adjacent for comparable 2. And the time adjusted sale prices range from 421,300 for comparable 1. So again, that was the comparable with no finished basement and with a negative land influence, up to 463,600 for comparable number 2. So looking at the time adjusted sale prices as well as the time adjusted sale prices per square foot, I do think that the subject at 447,000 falls within that range, and I do think that the value is reasonable. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Whitbread, do you have any questions?
No, thanks.
Ms. Garrity, do you have any questions?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Okay, and I have no questions either. So that concludes today's hearing. Thank you very much, and the decisions will be sent out shortly. Thank you.